A couple of other things that I want to cover, some comments that people have made and different points that they've made. First, I would like to go to the TikTok account. This is the account. There are about 1,500 followers on this account. The 3 pinned videos, a couple of them have 10,000 views. One has 7,000 views. One of the ones that's not pinned has 20,000 views. I want to point a couple of things out, and these are, again, there are 70 videos on here. The very first video that we see is down here at the bottom that was posted back in June of 2025 says, "I'm bored. Tell me the red flag in a friendship you ignored until it slapped you in the face." So to me, that says this person decided to create this account because they were bored. And, you know, just let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th video this person posted was an accusation that the petitioner wanted to non-consensually obtain the genetic material of her brother who had had a traumatic brain injury and was not going to recover, which right there is something that is intentionally meaning to cause emotional distress to a person, which does fall under the legal definition of stalking. The petitioner's brother had sustained a traumatic brain injury. He was making eye contact, according to the petitioner, all the way up until the day that he died. He had already passed away at this point, and the respondent chose to make this video. I guess being privy to a conversation that Lauren and her family had about her brother being a brilliant person and wondering if something he would have wanted was to be a donor. And there is a surgical procedure by which they can obtain the genetic material. It has nothing to do with contact that is sexual in nature at all. And apparently the respondent, being privy to that conversation, decided to blow it out of proportion and make it something disgusting. So this entire account, we heard Lindsay say on the stand that some of this was motivational. Let me go back to my notes here. She said it wasn't entirely about the petitioner. It was about things going on in her life. It was about protecting your personal peace. Lindsay said, "I don't think they were positive." So by definition, they were negative. A few were not about your client. Some of them were about protecting your personal peace, not motivational, but peaceful. I don't see anything peaceful on here. And again, I haven't watched every single one of these, but I don't see anything peaceful on here. I don't see anything about protecting your personal peace. So that's just me. If there is something that I've missed, I think this one is the audio. I don't know which audio that is because I haven't listened to it. But this is, so I wanted to find the one that she posted the day of this hearing, which was September 22nd. So I don't see one from September 22nd. So I'm looking through and I don't see anything that was dated September 22nd. This Worms one was September 6th, and then the next one is a Charlie Kirk Memorial post, and then the next one, which is, by the way, the only one that I've seen that isn't about the petitioner. And then the next one that I see, there are a couple that have been posted on the 25th of September. So I don't know if there was one that was posted on the 22nd that has since been removed. So I don't see it there. It's possible that it has been removed at this point. So I want to point out, a lot of people have talked about the disparity in the audiences between the petitioner and the respondent. The respondent apparently had just 500 followers or so on this TikTok at the time, and it's been purported that she had 50,000 followers on her art pages on Instagram. I've never looked at those, so I can't tell you if that's accurate or not. But the question I want to ask is, does it matter? A lot of people have said, the petitioner has over 300,000 followers on their YouTube page, and the respondent only had, at the time, 500 followers on their TikTok. My question again is, does it matter? Because this to me is a little bit like if we remove the names again from these two individuals and we just go petitioner and respondent in a typical stalking case, that's a little bit like saying, oh, the person being stalked has millions of dollars and the person being accused of stalking is basically destitute. Does that matter? Does it matter how many followers a person has? Or does it matter that the behavior is not okay? Because to me, that's what matters. To me, it wouldn't matter. What if it was the other way around? What if the petitioner had only 500 followers and the respondent had hundreds of thousands of followers? Would you feel differently about it? I think I might. I think I might feel differently if a smaller creator was being harassed by a larger creator. But maybe that's wrong of me to think of it that way. Maybe it should just be as black and white as doesn't matter the number of followers, the number of money, the number of, influence that you have. One person is trying to harass and cause emotional harm to the other person. That's stalking. That behavior is wrong. It shouldn't matter how many followers each one of them has. Another comment I've gotten a lot on my page, on my channel, is about the petitioner releasing the private, protected mental health information of her son, and that being a big motivator behind the reason why she felt it necessary to expose all of this information on her own channel, on her own terms. And some people are saying, well, you went ahead and revealed it anyway. And so what was that about? Why would you do that? Well, I have since learned, I've read all of the court documents, and I have since learned that there would have been a lot more information that would have come out about her son's protected mental health data than what was shared in the statement made by the petitioner's husband. So in the statement that was made by the petitioner's husband, he did reference some of the mental health information of both his wife and his son. But that's not the extent of what would have been revealed in the hearing had it been televised, live streamed, reported on by Law and Crime. So make of that what you will. Believe me, don't believe me. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to present the facts that I do know. And I've been asked not to share the court documents because they're they're private on Utah's page, on the court page. And so I'm not going to share them, but they certainly, I think, have been leaked in some places. You could probably go find them if you wanted to. But yes, I've read all of the court documents. I've also read the statement made by Gigi McKelvey of Pretty Lies and Alibis. And I've also listened to the live stream that Kresha from Difficult Research did. I have zero beef against either one of those people. In fact, I like them both. They're both also friends of mine in this space, in this YouTube space. I just want to say that Gigi made a statement about her experience with Lauren Matthias. She's allowed to do that, and she's allowed to have her own experience with Lauren, and she's allowed to have her own criticisms of Lauren. Same goes for Kresha of Difficult Research, whose channel I support, whose research I support. She's an excellent researcher. I think that she definitely is, of course, entitled to her own opinion about her experiences with Lauren. That hasn't been my experience with Lauren. And in my opinion, my experiences with Lauren personally don't have anything to do with this case. So even though Crush's experience and Gigi's experience have appeared to be negative with Lauren, I don't think it changes the fact that she was granted a stalking injunction and it was violated. That's what I keep coming back to, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether I like someone or dislike someone. What matters to me are the facts of the case, and that's what I'm going to stick with. And the other thing I want to say too is that I've said this a lot, and other people said this a lot during my family's trial. There are no perfect victims. You're not going to find anybody out there who's been a victim of a crime who is a perfect saint, who's never done anything wrong, who's never said anything bad about anybody, who's never disparaged anybody. Does that mean they deserve to be harassed? Does that mean they deserve to be harmed emotionally? Does that mean that they deserve to have somebody make an entire social media account dedicated to pointing out their flaws and saying things about them that are not true and that are defamatory? No. If there are things that are true, then yeah, they should be said, especially if they harmed people. But what has happened here in this case, and a lot of these interactions with professional contacts of Lauren, is that they've received information that was not true. They've received screenshots of texts that have been manipulated or taken out of context. And I'm not going to pretend over here that every text that Lauren has sent was kind and respectful of victims and families and co-workers and contacts of all kinds. I'm not going to say that because, again, no perfect victims. There's not a single one of us who have not said something negative about somebody or, said something in an email or a text that we hope the public never sees. My point is, we've all said negative things about people, and I want to go back to what the judge said. People are allowed to say negative things about other people. Just because somebody says something and we don't like it doesn't mean that it's stalking. But the judge also said that the respondent is not allowed to threaten or harass or cause emotional harm to the petitioner. And that's what has happened here. So is Lauren Matthias a flawed figure? Yes, we all are. Period. Has she said unkind things to people? Yes. Have I said unkind things to people? Yes. But that doesn't mean that any of us, either of us, deserve to be the victim of harassing, defamatory comments or any kind of speech in general that is done with the intent of causing emotional harm. And in Utah, the law says that only has to happen twice in order for it to be considered stalking, period. The final thing that I want to point out, and I talked about this a little bit at the beginning about trying to change the gender roles over here. If the petitioner was a female and the respondent was a male, we probably all would feel very differently about this situation. And again, I think that I said this last night, that I've spoken to lots of women who have also been victims of stalking behavior. Some of these women have said, I've been a victim of stalking. That's not stalking. She's just being dramatic. I think a lot of people's backlash about Lauren's 9-hour live that I've seen where people are like, she was whiny, she was emotional. I think a lot of that backlash has to do with the fact that when we haven't dealt with our own emotions or our own feelings around a subject, especially something like stalking, it's really uncomfortable for us to see other people expressing their emotions. And so I would just say part of this is about doing our own work to heal our own wounds, because then we're more able to sit with other people and their difficult emotions and their difficult circumstances. And the other part of it is what I want to point out too, is that those of us who have been victims of stalking are frustrated because we find that there's not a lot that the police can do until we've been physically harmed. And, it's very haunting what one of my, somebody that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years was trying to, she had a stalking order in place or restraining order put in place. And the police basically told her, they're not violating the stalking order, then there's nothing we can do to protect you. And her comment was, so you're basically telling me unless I'm assaulted or I'm dead, there's nothing that you can do. And the police essentially told her, yes, that was the case. That's haunting. It's chilling. It's horrible. It makes me want to do something to change the law so that there can be better protections. There is an author out there, and I'm so sorry that I'm forgetting her name right at this moment, who calls stalking murder in slow motion. And I don't think that that is an over exaggeration or an over dramatization, because as the statistics that I shared on my initial live is that 65% of attempted murder victims and 89% of murder victims were stalked prior to the murder. So that's where I want to leave this. I'm kind of tired of talking about it, but I felt it was important to share details and facts. My own subscribers, as I said at the beginning, were asking me if I had listened to the audio of the court, so I wanted to put that out there because I think it's been misinterpreted by a lot of different people. And, I have a problem with those channels who their only intent is to get on YouTube and drag people and just make fun of people. They're not making any content. They're just taking other people's content and making fun of it as it's happening. I don't think that adds anything valuable to this online community or to the world in general. And I don't want to watch any of that stuff. So when people have asked if I've watched XYZ thing that came out about this, if it's a channel whose sole intent is just to make fun of people, to drag people, not interested. I don't care. If they say something negative about me, let them. There was this insinuation that Joe Schmo and I set Christina up, take those pictures in the bar, and I will just say, I honestly can't remember if I said this at the beginning of my live or not, but I want to say that I was not with Joe Schmo when he took the pictures, so I can't attest to what he did or did not do before he took those pictures. I didn't realize he'd taken them until after they'd been taken. I was, near Lauren and Grayson in the bar both evenings, and I witnessed Christina being there both evenings. So I just want to say, no, as far as I know, nobody set anybody up. Christina was in fact in the bar, and she was in fact closer than 500 feet. The judge just clarified for us in that audio that they're allowed to be in the same public space together, but if they're able to be 500 feet apart, they need to be 500 feet apart. And I can also attest that, that bar area is a big area, and that Christina was less than 50 feet away from Lauren. So in my estimation, that's a violation of the stalking order. So that's all I'm going to say for now, and I probably won't comment on this again unless new information comes out. I hope that Lauren will continue to pursue this case in court. She dropped the suit because she thought that was the right thing to do for her family. Again, I very publicly have said from beginning to end, I would have handled this very differently myself. But me presenting these facts is not me saying I agree with everything Lauren did. I want to be clear about that. I also want to be clear that regardless of how she handled it, or in my opinion, how she should have handled it, or whatever, agree or disagree with how she handled it, for me, the bottom line is that she didn't deserve what was done to her. And that's where I'm going to leave it. At the end of the day, I wish that we could put aside differences of opinion and that we could all agree that this kind of behavior is wrong, it's illegal, and that should really be the end of the conversation, in my opinion. I hope that you will take good care of the people that you love, but mostly I hope that you will take care of yourself, because when we care for ourselves first, when we put ourselves first, and we do the thing that is the most loving thing for us, we're much better able to show up for the people in our lives who need us and who depend upon us. So I hope that you will take good care of yourself and treat others with kindness and respect. Thank you.